wonder if this is them just not realizing that, the tactics they use against Chinese people don't work. Like, they were very good at trying to buy off and influence the West in a variety of ways. But yeah, particularly with Hong Kong, I don't know if they expected how bad that would make them look. And then once they started getting attacked, they're communists. They don't really know how to respond to that except for viciously lashing out. So I wonder if they're just stuck in this loop.
It's America's fault. Obviously, yeah. These were all CIA people.
Yeah, and so now they don't know how to handle. It was easy when they could just buy people off, and it was golden era, friendly, win-win mutual cooperation. But now they're in this kind of death spiral of just lashing out in ways that actually will not. They haven't successfully threatened you. They've just made themselves look like idiots.
Yeah, absolutely.
But I want to touch on something that you brought up earlier, Chris, which is the legal warfare, which is, I would say there's kind of two different types of legal systems, broadly speaking. And one is, I would kind of call it the UK legal system, which is, starting with Magna Carta and the whole thing that sort of evolved over the last few centuries, which is that there's this rule of law and there's a specific set of rules. And, if you commit a crime, you have a sort of trial. And if you are found to have put your toe past the line, you can be found guilty. But if you haven't put your toe past the line, you're found not guilty. And it's sort of designed to protect the innocent. The other type of legal system, broadly speaking, is a communist legal system, which is that you have a country where the government is controlled by the party and not by whatever's written in their constitution, which could be a quasi-phony constitution. So it's actually the parties controlling the government and controlling the courts. And so they're using law as a system to have the appearance of rule of law, but it's actually rule by law. So they're using this law as a tool to go after people, but it's actually the party's tool to target the people they want to target. And it has often very little to do with what we in the West would consider crimes. Now, here's the problem. You've got two very different legal systems. And to even call them legal systems is the beginning of the problem. Because when you start to think, oh, well, that's illegal according to Chinese law, then there starts to be this, when you use the same term for things, it starts to blend the meanings. And I think what the Communist Party is trying to do is use their communist rule by law system to kind of spread around the world to get people to start recognizing Chinese law as being legitimate in some way. And I think it's a process that could take decades, but I think that's what they want to do is push their legal system around the world, which always gives authoritarians control at the expense of protecting the innocent. And so this is a kind of legal warfare. And another example of that would be the law that they passed recently that allows Chinese vessels to open fire in the South China Sea if they're targeted, right? And it's illegal because it's the South China Sea, which is international waters, but it's legal according to China's law because that's Chinese territory. And I feel like that's kind of the same thing as the Hong Kong national security law, using this legal warfare, using this appearance of a legal system to then spread the Communist Party's rule by law around the world.
Yeah, I think that's absolutely right. And it's very clear that they, as you say, they have their own understanding of law and absolutely no respect for what we would call the international rules-based order. I mean, they sign up to numerous treaties, not least, of course, the Sino-British Joint Declaration, which is an international treaty registered at the United Nations that is valid until 2047, the first 50 years from the handover. But they've basically effectively torn it up. They say it's a historic document that is not relevant today. And they do the same with other international treaties that they're signatories to. But choose not to abide by. And the other thing that's happened in Hong Kong itself is, Hong Kong was until recently very much a place that prided itself in the rule of law and independent judiciary and so on. And now we're seeing that really undermined. The judiciary is certainly not independent. It's under political pressure to deliver the verdicts and sentences that the authorities want. And crucially, in the national security law cases, I believe I'm correct in saying that none of, or certainly almost all of those who are in prison under the national security law pre-trial have been held for many months ahead of their trial and denied bail. And bail used to be a very normal, expected part of legal proceedings in Hong Kong. So that's quite significant. I always remember the one of Hong Kong Watch's patrons, the former British Foreign Secretary, Sir Malcolm Rifkind, who was the Foreign Secretary in the last couple of years before the handover of Hong Kong. He tells a story of talking with his Chinese counterpart, the Chinese foreign minister, and he made the point about the importance of the rule of law. And the Chinese foreign minister said, yes, we also believe in the rule of law. In China, the people must obey the law. And Malcolm Rifkind said, no, you don't understand. It's not just the people. The government must obey the law as well. The government is under the law. And his Chinese counterpart looked as if he was from another planet and couldn't understand that concept at all. And so, as you say, they apply rule by law, not rule of law.
Yeah. So as a sort of instructive lesson, help us understand how Hong Kong went from rule of law to now rule by law, at least in the national security cases. Because, I would think that Hong Kong, having been established so long as this free and independent city, you'd have lawyers, you'd have prosecutors like district attorneys or the equivalent.
You also have Hong Kong law.
You have Hong Kong, you have Hong Kong law. You have judges. You have this whole system of people or bureaucrats or whatever that are used to this sort of standard British rule of law legal system that's now being used to do things that are clearly not right according to that system.
And it happened very fast. The old system fell apart immediately. It's how democracy dies. Not that Hong Kong was a democracy.
Yeah, well, but and it died so quickly. So how does that actually happen? What's the mechanism for force? How does an authoritarian system force this change on a free system so quickly?
Mm. Well, you're right to point out the speed of it. I think that's what's so shocking. I think the only explanation really is just that they have created this intense climate of fear that people who previously were absolutely defenders of the rule of law and of an open, free society are afraid of the consequences if they don't implement what they're being asked to do. And so, for example, people in the judiciary and the legal profession in Hong Kong basically have one of two choices. And to be fair to them, many of them did speak out for as long as they could before it became too dangerous. But now they really face two choices. One is to leave Hong Kong, which many have. The other is to do what the regime is asking them to do. And I think that's probably the explanation for why it's happened so fast.